Hey everybody, it's your pal Trandell. We are back, of course, playing more Remnant 2. Probably one of my favorite games of all time at this point, if you haven't figured it out. So, I wanted to get another video out talking about weapon mods. Had somebody drop by my YouTube channel earlier, left a really awesome comment. I'm going to cross my fingers and I'm going to hope I pronounce your name correctly, Mr. Nidlife. Had an amazing comment on my Space Crabs video with a suggestion to use the class Archon for mod power generation. 100% correct. The Archon is basically the class that's 100% designed pretty much to generate mod power. The only problem with that is that it's also, as of right now, the absolute hardest class to unlock. You have to like beat the game, jump through all kinds of hoops, have certain equipment unlocked and equipped, all kinds of stuff. So it's definitely something that is going to take a while for your average player to get a hold of, if they ever do get a hold of it. So I wanted to make a video talking about, weapon mods. Some of the basics. There's new players picking up Remnant 2 all the time, and I'm still seeing streams on Twitch with new players running around without weapon mods, and it literally hurts my heart and soul every time I see it. So, we're going to talk about weapon mods, the basics, and then we're going to go over some helpful tips and tricks that I have experimented and learned on how to generate mod power easily without having to spend hours and days and possibly even weeks to unlock the Archon. So, right off the bat, what is a weapon mod? So, a weapon mod is a special ability that you can put on all basic ranged weapons. Okay? There's some key points we need to talk about. Weapon mods only can be used on ranged weapons. Now, melee weapons, some of them have their own like baked in type of weapon mods. But actual weapon mods that you find throughout your time playing Remnant 2, those can only be put on ranged weapons. And this is basically what it looks like. Let's say you just started the game, you picked up a weapon. We're not even going to go with that. We're going to go with literally one of the starting weapons, okay? Bone saw, right? This is what it's going to look like. 2 blank slots. One for modification, one for mutators. We're going to save mutators for another video. Modification, well, that's where we get the weapon mod term from. Weapon mods will go into that slot. Now, for all you new folks out there, or people that might be doing research, maybe you're getting ready to buy the game, maybe you bought the game, you can get weapon mods basically right at the start of the game. As soon as you're done with the tutorial, the little root bar, actually I don't want to spoil it, you're going to get a crafting material, okay? That crafting material is called a root ganglia. That I will say, because I know a lot of people running around. I've seen streams where people are running around with the root ganglia not knowing what to do. When you get that item, you run over here to our friendly crafter McCabe,
better be worth my time.
and then you will be able to craft one of 4 mods.
All right then.
And I've actually left one of them up to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. So let's say if I had a root ganglia on me, see where it says required materials? That's what it would cost to make this weapon mod, concussive shot. So the other 3 are healing shot, scrap shot, and hot shot. Now, one quick new player tip. Out of those 4, unless you're picking up the medic, I would probably recommend the healing shot. The healing shot is this guy right here. Straightforward. You shoot out a little payload, you run over it, or you shoot it at your feet, it heals you. I would probably recommend picking this up because then you have some way of guaranteed healing that you can use as you're starting out. That way you're not having to waste your dragon hearts to heal all the time. Weapon mods will recharge. Dragon hearts, they don't recharge unless A, you're a medic, or B, you use checkpoints and stuff like that. So that's how you find weapon mods. You're going to find dozens of these guys. There's dozens and dozens of them in the game. Most of the time, pretty much all the time, honestly, you're going to find them by getting crafting materials like the root ganglia from like bosses, apparitions, maybe special events. You take it to McCabe, she'll be able to make you a weapon mod. Alright, so that's how we get them. Now, once we get them, basically, we just put it on an item. So we'll just put this on. Once we have it on an item, you will notice, let's take this off. Now, if you notice that blank empty circle, that lets you know you don't have a mod. Once we put it on, it looks like that. So, we equip it by right-clicking with PC. Unfortunately, I don't know what the console controls are. Whatever it is to inspect, that's what you want to do. Inspect the weapon, click on the open modification slot, and then go ahead and put your weapon mod in. Now, let's go over real fast on how to read this. So, you got the name of the weapon mod, Prismatic Driver. You got the text below it that tells you what it does. In this case, it fires a superheated beam, which deals damage per second. Sustaining the beam on a target causes an explosion, which deals more damage. And at the bottom of every window, it'll show you the mod power requirement. That's how much mod power it costs to use that ability. Now, most of them will be like our space crabs right here. Usually it's a one and done. 450 mod power uses the mod. But there are a couple that you will see per pulse. Prismatic Driver is one. Another one is this guy right here. Stasis Beam. Same way. Per pulse is a little bit different, and we'll go over that just now. So, you have your weapon mod, you found it, you took the item to McCabe, you made it, you put it on your weapon. Now, how do we actually use these? So, when you first put a weapon mod on a weapon, you will not have charges. So, how do we get charges? By getting weapon mod power. The easiest, most basic baseline way to get mod power is by hitting enemies with that weapon. And then same thing with these guys, except for those are going to act a little different. We're going to pop them out here. Wait for them to start exploding. Okay, that should be fine. Come on, start exploding. Oh my god, I forgot how long they last. Okay, fine, whatever. But yeah. So just by attacking enemies, that's how you get mod power. Now, there are all kinds of different weapon mods with all kinds of different values. Space Crab's my all-time favorite. takes 450. Rotted arrow, another favorite of mine, takes 400. Some take more. Boar takes 500. Corrosive rounds takes 1250. I believe one of the biggest ones is defrag. Defrag takes 1500. I don't think I've seen a weapon mod yet that takes more than that. Yeah, I think that is one of the biggest ones. But as you can see, they all have all kinds of different mod power requirements all over the place, okay? So, now we have the general baseline of how do we generate mod power. By attacking enemies. That's all you need to know. Alright, now, how do we know that we have enough? If you're looking at your weapon, you're going to notice a couple things. That is one way right there. When you get a charge, you're going to hear like a weird kind of dong kind of bell sound. That's the audio cue to let you know that, hey, one of your mod for whatever weapon you have equipped just came online. You have a charge. The other way is by looking at the weapon itself. You have the gray background. Now, if you notice, once I start using my crabs, that gray background is going to disappear. Now, did you notice how I lost some of it? And now it's going to start going back up. So, once you have that gray background all the way filled in, that's how you know you have a charge. Another way is by the circle around the mod itself. That right there is going to tell you how many charges you have. Some mods only have one. Some mods, like Space Crabs, have two. And then you got mods like the Prismatic Driver where you have 30, okay? We're going to talk about the Prismatic Driver in just a little bit. But yeah, that's how you tell that you're generating mod power and that you have mods ready. It's just by watching that bar fill up, listening for that dong sound, and then looking in the corner to see how many charges you have. Now, you have mod power, right? You have charges. How do you know? How do you use your weapon mod? On PC, it's F. So, there's a couple ways to do this. As you're aiming down sights, you'll have your normal reticle. Well, when you hit F, that will change. So that's one way to know that you're on your weapon mod and not your weapon. The other way, if you notice, that weapon is flashing. If you hit F again, you notice how it's not flashing? When it's not flashing, you're on your regular weapon. When it's flashing, you're on the weapon mod. So, we've got our weapon mod selected. The reticle is changed. This is something I want to point out real fast. With Space Crabs, depending on the type of reticle that you see, there can be all kinds of different interactions. If you see like this flight path type of reticle, that means that that weapon mod uses a type of projectile that is not a normal bullet, alright? It's some type of grenade usually. And if I fire it, you will see that, right? It shoots out the little space crab egg. And you'll notice that. Other weapon mods usually have a regular reticle kind of looking thing, and those don't have a flight path. It's just a straight shot like a regular bullet, kind of like that. This is really, really important though. I want you to remember what this reticle looks like. You will see this a lot in weapon mods and in items and all kinds of different stuff. Keep an eye on this because we're going to talk about this a little bit later. So, now we know How do we get our weapon mods? How do we put them on? How do we equip them? How do we use them? Mod power generation and stuff like that. The other thing I want to talk about is things like the prismatic driver. Now, the prismatic driver, if you notice, it says mod power requirement 50 per pulse. There's a couple like this. Prismatic driver is one. The other one is stasis beam. That says the same thing, 50 per pulse. Well, what does that mean? So unlike other weapon mods where it's just one use cost for 50, the prismatic driver, if you notice, if you just click the button, that's all it does. But if you hold it down, it will constantly channel and use that mod until you run out of charges. That's where the per pulse is. So, anything that says per pulse will almost always have multiple charges that you can store up, usually way higher than the normal, 2 or 3 or something like that. So, those are some of the different, types of information, details you want to look at when you pick up weapon mods. Now that we got some of the basic stuff out of the way, let's talk about mod power generation. We already know the most basic way, and that's just attacking enemies. But that can be kind of a pain, especially if you have mods that do require a little bit more mod power. Say something like Tremor. Tremor does 900, right? Now, let's take this off real fast because I want to kind of show you what I'm talking about. So, Tremor's got 0 mod power. It's completely empty, right? Normally, that's how long it would take to get a charge of Tremor up, right? Not fun. Definitely not fun. So how can we make that better? How can we get more mod power generation so that mods like Tremor that do require more mod power don't take forever to come back up? Well, that's what we're going to talk about next, and I'm going to show you some of my tips and tricks. So, there's a couple things that we can do. One of the easiest and one of the ways that I use is this combination right here. That's not what I usually use, but let's see. Actually, we can keep that on. That's fine for right now. So, this is one of the combinations that I use for my mod power generation with my build. The key part of it is the Stone of Malevolence. Now, what this does is all elemental damage generates 15% additional mod power. Now, elemental damage is fire, which is anything in that orange text, corrosive, acid, which is anything in that green text, and shock, which is anything in that kind of like purplish blue kind of text. Those are all elemental damage. So, like, if I use, let's see, let's pop this out there. Okay, if I use my axe, there you go. You see that blue damage text. Anything that's in blue, orange, or green for your damage text, that is elemental damage. Now, if you notice, I'm starting to generate mod power, right? all elemental damage. Well, that definitely isn't going to work for us. So, what I use with my build is this bad boy right here, the detonation trigger. Increases explosion damage by 25%. But the key word that we want to see is explosions apply burning damage. Now, what does that mean? That means anything that does explosive damage is also going to do burning damage, which means it's also going to do elemental damage, which means our Stone of Malevolence is going to give us mod power. Our spacecrafts, as I've talked about before a million times, do explosion damage. So if I pop those bad boys out, there you go, without firing a single bullet. I almost got both charges of space crabs up. And that mod power regeneration also got me a charge of Tremor. So the Stone of Malevolence will do some work. Now, my combination is definitely a little bit more powerful because I also got another ring that basically takes the Stone of Malevolence to a whole nother level. If you notice, my burning damage right now is at 10 seconds. But I have the Timekeeper's Jewel. So what does that do? Increases the duration of all status effects applied by the wearer. Duration varies by status, right? If I take this off, now my burning damage is only doing 5 seconds of damage, which is a very noticeable decrease in elemental damage, right? You want that to be as long as possible because the more elemental damage you're doing, the more mod power you're going to get from the Stone of Malevolence. That's what makes the Timekeeper's Jewel a super important part of this build, because between these two items combined, I am doing all kinds of burning damage. And this is what it starts to look at, right? So let's pop out some space crabs. Let's go ahead and pop out one of these guys. You can basically and definitely use both of those mods and never fire another bullet. You'll be generating so much mod power through the burning damage of your Tremor and your space crabs, you'll never have to fire a bullet. Now, I've talked about this before. This is why you test. This is why you experiment. Look at your game mechanics. Look at the text. Experiment. Actually use the testing range, because sometimes the text might not necessarily match up and do exactly what you think it does. Space Crab says it pretty clear, right? Exploding. Pretty straightforward, right? Well, they explode, which means the detonation trigger should work. Now, same thing like with our Rotted Arrow. Rotted Arrow detonates. Pretty much another word for explosion, but it doesn't necessarily straight up say explosion, so test it out. But Tremor doesn't have either of those words. It doesn't have detonate, it doesn't have explosion, doesn't really say anything anywhere that says that. But what caught my eye, and the reason why I wanted to point out that reticle earlier, right? The reticle with space crabs. Oh, I don't have it. Okay, hold on. Let's get some mod power. This guy, this is why this is so important. Remember this reticle? Well, look familiar? This is why you want to experiment. When the moment I saw this reticle for trimmer, I'm like, huh. And then I saw the little canister. I wonder if that counts as an explosion, and it does. This is why you want to test things out, folks, because sometimes the text might not be super clear that it's going to interact with something, but once you test it out, you will notice that, yeah, it might. Yeah, it totally does. So that's the reason why I wanted to point out that reticle from earlier. So, yeah, and there's all kinds of different ways you can generate mod power outside of that, too. Some of them are going to be a little bit harder to show in the ward because we're not taking damage. But one of the other ways you can also generate mod power is by this guy right here. So, dense silicone ring. Gain 200% of health regenerated as mod power. Like I said, it's kind of hard to showcase this in the ward because it has to be active health regeneration, which means you have to take damage and stuff like that. But one combination that you can use while you're out and about and playing is this guy right here. Crystal Heart, on use, regenerates 115% of max health over 10 seconds. I have 130 health. So if I pop this guy and I'm taking damage constantly, that's going to be, I don't know, 140, 150 something odd health that I'm going to be regenerating over 10 seconds. Well, you basically times that by 2 with the dense silicone ring, and that's how much mod power you're going to get. And it doesn't matter where the health regeneration is coming from. It can be things like the healing shield. Again, 100% of their max health. Allies regenerate 31% of their max health over the duration. So that's 31% of your health regeneration that's going to be going into mod power. And then you add things like, let's see, which one is it? Things like this. No, not that one. Where is it? Oh, here's another one. Here's even more mod power generation. So, let's say this is a good one. What else do we got? That's one. There's all kinds of things that will generate health. Where is... I know I have another one. Oh, here's a good one. So, right, this right here is a perfect combination, right? So, this gives you 200% of health regenerated as mod power. Well, this guy, whenever you use a mod, you regenerate 10% of your health. And that can stack up to 30 seconds. So, that's 30 seconds of health regeneration that you can get that's automatically going to be doubled and turned into mod power. And, you know, then you got this that's going to be passively regenerating health whenever you need it. You got this that's going to be giving you health regeneration whenever you take damage. You have traits like regrowth that gives you health regen. You start adding all that stuff up and you're going to be generating mod power like crazy. And especially if you're playing in co-op, a build like that could be absolutely amazing, okay? Let's say you got 2 other friends, you're going a super tanky build, you know you're going to take damage, right? Well, with some of these items, you're just going to be generating mod power like nobody's business. Test things out, guys. Read the text. Try different combinations. See what works. There's definitely more ways outside of one of the hardest classes in the game, the Archon, to generate mod power. And these are just a couple. Again, I'm still finding items. I'm 100+ hours into the game, and I am still finding items. I am still finding combinations. So keep testing it out. And just try it out. But yeah, that's the video. Like I said, I wanted to get a video out anyways talking about mods, and Mr. Nidlife on my YouTube channel with his awesome comment really was the inspiration to finally get it out there. As always, this is meant to be inspirational. This is to give you ideas. This, especially for newer players to Remnant 2. This is to help you learn, grow, get a firm foundation under you, but more importantly, to help you try to figure out ways to start testing out your own ideas. Test out your own build theories. Test out your own, different gear combinations. Try things out. Push the envelope, okay? If any of my videos or my content gives you an inspiration to try something out, that's all I could ever ask for. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So, that's the video in the nutshell. Basically, kind of everything you need to know about weapon mods. Like I said, there will definitely be more content coming out. I want to talk about some of the melee stuff because, like I said, melee weapons are kind of like their own separate little beast. I want to talk about mutators, how mutators work, but then the video will be, 2 hours long. So, that's it for the night. As always, I hope you're all having a beautiful night. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll talk again soon. Take it easy, everybody.